welcome to this brand new edition of India Revival Mission on Times Network. This week we are going to talk about the problems that the farmers of the country are talking about in the new 3 farm laws. Why is it that the government has been repeatedly saying that these 3 new farm laws are going to revolutionize the life of the Kisan, the Annadata of this country? On the other hand, the farmers who are from Punjab and Haryana and now other parts of the country as well, saying that the new laws are anti-farmer. Why are there these 2 different kind of views? That's the focus on India Revival Mission. Today I'm Hina Gambhir. Joining me on the broadcast to clear all the doubts are my guests. We have Avik Saha, Organizing Secretary, All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee. We have with us Amir Ullah Khan, who is Professor of Economic Policy, MCR, HRDI, Government of Telangana. We have with us Vijay Sardana, who is an agriculture economist, and Mr. P. Chengal Reddy, President, Federation of Farmers Association. Thank you very much, all of you gentlemen, for joining us here on this very special edition of India Revival Mission. Mr. Reddy, let me begin this discussion with you. Why is it that the farmers feel that the MSP is going to go when the government is giving repeated assurances that MSP is going to continue? Why is it that the farmers feel that the APMC Mandi system will go when the government says that only new options will be given to them for the farmers to be able to sell their produce elsewhere apart from Mandis? APMC Mandi system is not going anywhere. Why is it happening, sir?
We must look at the GDP since 1990 reforms. The question we have to put to ourselves as well as to everyone is, how is that service and industrial sectors are growing at 10%, whereas agriculture remained at 1%, in fact negative, and all sorts of problems are continuing, and seems to be no way out. In 30 years' time, none of the governments of UPA, NDA and others, Prime Ministers, Chief Ministers, across the country are able to make various efforts, but then the farm business doesn't come down. We are able to produce sufficient food. There is no problem. There is sufficient food production, but every farmer across the country is in distress. The point is very simple. We have some fundamental problems of low productivity, wastage, and low conversion ratio, and high labor cost, etc., etc. All these problems are coming. And then we have serious restrictions on the movement, the processing, interstate movements and all this. All these problems, please remember, before 1990, industry and service sectors were facing these problems. In those days, to get one license for an industry, you have to go to 27 departments. Similar problem exists for farmers today. It is for this reason that in 2007, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan gave a number of recommendations, including whatever is being implemented other day by Mr. Modi in the so-called 3 reforms. Now, as a farmers activist, I realize that we fought for the Swaminathan Committee report for almost 10 years. Even today, our friends from Punjab, Haryana, one of the demands they are making is that Swaminathan report has to be implemented. This is exactly what Mr. Modi has done by bringing about these 3 reforms, is what is contained in Swaminathan report. Now, the only question today, there are 2 issues that are there. One is the apprehensions raised by Punjab, Haryana farmers in regard to MSP. Now, the question of MSP was there for last 40 years, and MSP is announced for 25 crops, but only wheat and rice was procured, that too in Punjab and other places. There is no MSP for vegetables or fruits or oils or commercial crops. Now, the second question is, why is that today, if the farm sector has to be revived, the growth has to come to 4 or 5 points and create employment? What is that we require? If you look at that, simply one is we have lowest productivity, we have huge wastage, there is no processing. Now you solve them. How do you solve them? You require technology, investments and free markets. This is exactly what the reforms are meant for. As far as the reforms, if there is any defect, yes, I definitely agree. One of the reports which we have sent from our side is, in all these laws, there should be a regulatory commission. Like you have an electricity commission, you have an insurance commission. We want that, and that is what we have suggested. And if there are any modifications have to be done, my submission to my friends is, please go and discuss with Government of India, and whatever you want to suggest, you can suggest, and government can come forward with whatever recommendations or suggestions. Between 2 of you can sit and sort out. And also, lastly, I must tell you, What about this is wheat and rice accounts only for
Right.
10-12% of the national production? What about us, the 85-90% of us, vegetables, spices and others? We have no MSP, we have no guarantee. We are able to face the market, and tomorrow we'll continue facing whatever is the, we consider that liberalization,
Right.
the reform process is good for the country, investments and all that. We welcome it, in fact. And as I said, if there are any suggestions, modifications,
Okay.
you can sit with government and sort out.
Right. Okay, Mr. Avid Saha, now as Mr. Chengal Reddy mentioned, don't we need investment? Don't we need better infrastructure for the farmers? Because farm distress has been going on since last so many years. We're talking about reforms. Many big agricultural economists have called these reforms as like, the 1991 moment for the agriculture sector. Then isn't there some kind of misinformation campaign, miscommunication that is happening, that the real benefits are not being communicated to the farmers in the right way?
Of course, we need investment. The question is that investment. We need national security. So, should we invite the private sector to hire soldiers and protect our borders? There are certain reasons why a sovereign government of a democratic country exists. And national border security, internal security, and food security are government responsibilities. Let me tell you how the government has been discharging this responsibility, just by one example. This is an answer to a Lok Sabha question on 11th February 2020. The minister says that a warehouse infrastructure fund of 5,000 crores was created in the year 2013-14 to the tune of 5,000 crores. And the last allocation in this fund was made in 2014-15. So for the last 4 years, the government has not allocated anything for infrastructure. Now the government presumes, first, the government has not invested in this. Second, the government presumes that private entities will invest in this infrastructure. Very well. Why would the private entities invest in this infrastructure? Because they believe that that investment will yield profit. Now, who will that profit come from? It has to come from two sources, the producing source and the consuming source. So if the government, through these laws, has decided that it will abdicate its responsibility and obligation towards national food security, hunger of the people of this country, and hand it over to the private sector, who could do it, but they would charge a fee. It would be for their profit. Then this government has a serious problem with understanding why it exists. What is this government there for? The common people, the poorer sections, the economically weaker sections of this country are terrified of the days to come with regard to price of food, and the farmers are terrified about the security of their income, which of course doesn't exist even today.
Okay.
So the farmers who had been asking for a secure livelihood, and this is more than half the nation, have been presented with this option where there is a greater sense of insecurity. If the government can satisfy the farmers that yes, this will provide by concrete data, not by emotional appeals, then we are ready to talk. It's as simple as that.
I think you have raised very pertinent points. Let me take those across to Vijay Sardana. Vijay Sardana, how will you like to respond? Is the government actually abdicating its responsibility in terms of developing the infrastructure for the farmers and handing over the entire sector to the private sector? Because what farmers are really worried about right now, they feel that MSP is some kind of a stability for them. It's stable income. It's not more, but it's an assurance that they'll get some money for their produce. What is your point of view?
See, government also understands why we assume that government of India is enemy of India. Why this assumption is always there. If you also talk about why any government, for that matter, Mr. Manmohan Singh never implemented Swaminathan Commission report, are you saying he was enemy of the country? Or Mr. Modi is bringing a marketing reform, are you saying he is enemy of the country? I don't understand the logic when they say government is not concerned. I think we have a different view. I can have a vested interest which may not be in line with the national interest. Let me be very clear on a couple of examples with facts. What is the farmer's demand? 100% procurement at MSP by the government. I was just doing calculation. You know what is the budget? Total tax collection of government of India is 16,50,000 crore, and total MSP outgoing as of today's MSP is 15,68,000 crore. Means 100% taxpayer money will go for MSP. Okay? Now, you don't have a defense in this country.
Right.
You don't want electricity. You don't want education. You don't want healthcare. मतलब पूरा देश सिर्फ जितना टैक्स कलेक्शन हो आड़तियों के हवाले कर दें, किसानों के हवाले कर दें और देश को ताला लगा दें. Second option is we have to generate resources. We can generate resources by increasing tax by 3 times. Minute you do that, all industry sector will collapse. The country will have 100% unemployment. There will be no buyer for farmers'
Right.
crop. Your MSP is higher than the international market. You cannot export. There will not be purchasing power in India. I'm asking my all farmer friends, come with numbers, don't bring emotion. We have to save India, not just farmer. अगर देश बचेगा तो किसान बचेगा. आपके हमारे देश बर्बाद होगा. Please come with numbers and calculations. Let us discuss. Another point Mr. Avik Saab has mentioned,
Okay.
very important. Should we bring defense private sector? Yes, today 100% is private sector. All your technologies are coming from private sector. Your tanks are made by private sector. Your bunkers are made by private sector. Your life jackets are made by private sector. Private sector is also part of the country. ये मत समझिए कि देश में सब गद्दार हैं.
Okay.
मेरा ये कहने का मतलब ये है कि
नहीं, आपने important points raise किए हैं.
Be logical.
Okay. आपने बड़े important points raise किए हैं. Let me take that across to Mr. Khan as well. Mr. Khan, now those are pertinent points that we have heard so far on the show. Where do you stand? Because some economists believe that the pulse of the problem has actually been this continuing MSP, because eventually if you see states like Punjab and Haryana, the farmers don't get even the MSP. They get much lower. That transportation cost is involved, then money goes into the hands of the commission agents, the middlemen, the cess, the tax, everything is there. So farmers' income hasn't really gone up. MSPs have not really helped the farmers also.
Hina, thanks so much for this debate. The problem seen from either an economic perspective or a policy perspective is much bigger than just the MSP issue. Certainly, MSPs matter a lot. We are giving MSPs to nearly 23 crops. A small percentage of the 150 million farmers in India do get that MSP. The issue is much bigger than just the MSP. And the reason the farmer is upset today is primarily because of farm income. This is what we must recognize. And that is where I think the big problem lies. That we are seeing dwindling farm incomes for the first time in independent India's history. The NFSO clearly points out that rural income is going down. It is not that the rate of growth has gone down. Actually, the consumption income has gone down, and this is much before COVID. Now, when consumption income for a poor, marginalized section of society goes down, that section of society is going to get upset. And this manifestation of that distress is so very clear because rural incomes are down. That is point number one that we must take into account. And therefore, if farm incomes are down, then the least we can do is not convey that those incomes are going to go down further by not clarifying our issue on MSP. That's point A. The second point is that it is very important that when we talk about any reform, it is very important to build a constituency for that reform. It is not just enough to say that we are doing away with middlemen and we are doing away with hoarding. You see, these are not major problems anymore. What kind of middlemen are we talking about? What hoarding are we talking about? These are problems that existed a long time ago. There is no reason to get into a problem that does not exist anymore.
and cause further anxiety among our farmers. The third, and in some sense, the very important point is that if we are going to talk about the entire country developing, it has to be seen as such. What we are seeing now is that there is an inordinate increase in per capita income in urban India, which also has tempered this year, and there is a concomitant decrease in farm incomes across the country. The taxation regime has ensured that everybody now pays taxes, and therefore the tax incidence is higher. So, and the big point that I want to make is that one of the things that our government has been very concerned about over the last 6 years is inflation. As a result, one very happy occurrence that has happened is that inflation has been cut down. But what happens when inflation remains low if farm prices go down further? And when you combine all these, you realize that the distress is very clear, and you know why that distress is happening. Thank you.
Mr. Chengal Reddy, do you think perhaps more and more confidence building measures are needed from the government side? Government needs to reach out to the farmers more and more to tell them as to how and why these reforms are important if the intent is right?
Yeah, of course. Maybe yes, you are right. It is necessary that lot of detailed explanations, analysis required, and also there can be a discussion across the country, not only among intellectuals but amongst the business community, traders, youth, and all that. One suggestion which I have made to government is please appoint some sort of a regulatory commission to oversee the functioning of all these reforms.
I think that's a very interesting suggestion. Professor Khan, will you like to respond to Mr. Chengal Reddy?
I just like to clarify, Mr. Reddy, that the point I'm making is not against reform at all. In fact, the whole farm distress debate is not about reform. Everybody, and you will find most people are encouraging and are inviting the reform. The issue is really farm income. They are opposed to the fact that they see taxes going up. They see the consumers getting a disproportionate amount of benefit, and the farm sector itself, the poor farmer itself getting the short end of the stick. That is the only issue. Otherwise, there is really nothing that is against reforming the sector. Yes,
okay. Mr. Avik Saha, you know, in a way we have seen that even the MSP, as I was mentioning earlier as well, hasn't really helped the farmers much. I mean, more money has gone into the pockets of the commission agents, the middlemen, the mandi system than the farmers. I mean, he has to, manage the transportation cost and everything. With these reforms, as the government is saying, he will be able to sell anywhere he feels like. Isn't that amazing? Because APMC Act will continue. So that security that he's looking at is also going to be there. Is this another option will be given to him to sell his produce?
This show is titled India Revival Mission. And if the panelists here are going to seriously focus on the issue of revival, a good starting point for them will be facts. I'm surprised that Mr. Chengal Reddy had so many good things to say about Swaminathan Commission report being implemented, but he omitted to mention the key, most important thing, and I'm upset about it. Mr. Swaminathan's commission said that in order for farmers to be able to survive at base levels, they must get a C2 plus 50% as the MSP. Has Mr. Modi given C2 plus 50% MSP for any crop? You see, the point is, if you keep repeating a lie vociferously again and again and again, it does never become the truth. So the key issue here, as Mr. Khan said, is income and income security. That can come from prices, good prices, however you deliver the prices. What should be the prices? A commission of the government of India has told you what it should be. That has not been implemented. And here you are bringing in 3 laws where you will not refer to the prices, where you will not refer to a floor, and you actually believe that a free market will free everyone and create income. You see, Mr. Reddy spoke about the great industrial reforms of the 90s. 30 years have passed since then. Can you please go and tell the benefit of the industrial reform to the crores of migrant workers who walked back to their homes? So the question is not just reform. Reform for
your
whom?
points are important and they need to be discussed, and that's exactly the reason why we are having this discussion as well today. Let's get Mr. Vijay Sardana to respond. I have very little time. I give you the closing comments. I would like you to respond to Mr. Avik Saha's concern. Mr. Sardana.
My request is that Aviksha and their association should demand that all the APMC licenses should be given to the farmer organizations. They are producers of the crop. All APMC licenses should be with the farmer organizations. Those farmers who do not want to sell in APMC, they should have an alternate option. Why we need middlemen when our farmers are competent, when we have people like Mr. Avik Shah who understands everything, those who can speak in various languages, they can also negotiate with the trade. So what I'm trying to say is that farmers' demand should be hand over markets to us. Instead of saying dismantle the reforms, demand that APMC should come to us, and alternate which is proposed by the government should also be for us. Why you want restriction? So my request is that all farmer bodies should say all licenses should go to the farmer bodies. So you have a APMC with you, you have a outside with you, you are the boss of the market, you decide what you want. Why you are looking at government when 140 crore people need food every day? You decide the rate and you sell it. Where is the problem?
All right. All right. I think we have covered all the contentious issues as far as this three important farm laws are concerned. We'll see eventually what happens in this particular case, because farmers want that all three laws should be repealed immediately. Thank you very much, all of you gentlemen, for joining us here on India Revival Mission.